Novorossiysk, 11:34 p.m. The night was torn apart by a thermobaric fireball nearly 590 feet wide. Approximately 926 short tons of crude oil erupted into flames, turning the Shashari's energy throat into a colossal furnace and incinerating 6 out of 7 strategic loading berths in a matter of seconds. This was not merely an explosion. It was a geopolitical shockwave. About 920,000 barrels of oil per day were wiped from the market, sending global price charts nearly vertical overnight. Moscow committed a fatal mistake when it withdrew its S-400 shield and Krasuka 4 electronic warfare systems to reinforce Iran, inadvertently leaving a deadly gateway open on its own soil. A perfectly orchestrated scenario staged by Ukraine shattered both Russia's war machine and Tehran's supply lifeline. But to create that blazing halo in the sky, everything had to operate with millisecond precision beginning 77 minutes earlier. 10:17 p.m. Approximately 280 miles from Novorossiysk, 14 Lyuchi drones lifted off within 40 seconds. No radio command, no blinking navigation lights, only the faint whine of electric motors before they vanished into the dark. They climbed to 10,500 feet in a wedge formation, composite fuselages absorbing radar energy, their radar cross-section no greater than that of a large seagull. 4 Magura 5 unmanned surface vessels departed shortly after, even quieter. Electric propulsion in silent mode, bow wave no higher than 4.7 inches, leaving almost no thermal or acoustic signature across the black water. And then, total silence. No Starlink, no active GPS, not a single signal leaving the formation. From the perspective of Russian radar screens, 18 combat platforms had simply disappeared from the Earth as if they had never existed. Each Lyutai navigated using inertial guidance fused with Tercom, continuously matching the terrain and coastal contours below with preloaded digital maps correcting every deviation without external input. Like a runner sprinting blindfolded across a familiar road, memorizing every crack beneath his feet. No need to look, no need to ask, just run. Only when they were 31 miles from Shashari's did the entire formation descend to just 130 feet above sea level, skimming low enough to dissolve into the clutter layer that the S-300V4's automated filters were programmed to ignore. Small, inconsistent echoes at low altitude not worth the attention of a multi-million-dollar air defense system. 10:50 p.m. Inside a control room in Kiev, an operator watched through a Boson +4 KFLIR sensor. Infrared imagery clearly outlined the storage tanks and loading arms of Shashari's, a hub processing roughly 1.5 million barrels per day, generating billions of dollars per month. This was not merely oil, it was the cash flow fueling war against Ukraine and extending influence toward Iran. 10:51 p.m., while the strike formation was still 61 miles from Shashari's. At the Novorossiysk Air Defense Center, a 31-year-old senior lieutenant named Grigory Vasilyev sipped his third cup of tea. The 9 S-36M radar display showed exactly what it had shown for 3 years commercial vessels: sea clutter and occasional ghost reflections from migratory birds. Nothing alarming. On paper, Vasilyev commanded formidable defenses. 2 S-300V4 batteries equipped with 9 M82MV missiles, 250-mile engagement range, 330-pound warheads capable of tracking 24 targets simultaneously. 3 Panzer S-1 systems arranged in a triangular shield around the port, each armed with 12 5.7E-6E missiles and twin 2A-38M cannons firing up to 5,000 rounds per minute, theoretically enough to shred any drone within 12 miles. Offshore, a Ka-27 anti-submarine helicopter from the Black Sea Fleet patrolled the Western Arc equipped with dipping sonar and a surface search radar. Vasilyev knew the base was in transition. Since February 28th, when the United States and Israel launched strikes against Iran, Moscow had ordered an urgent redeployment. Krasuka 4 units and portions of the S-400 systems were prioritized for transfer to support Tehran. The first convoy had already departed. Replacement systems were en route, expected to be operational within 48 hours. In the meantime, a gap remained. 11:02 p.m., 44 miles to target. The 14 Liuti drones skimmed the sea at roughly 130 feet, blending into natural wave interference and wind distortion. Radar beams travel in straight lines. The Earth curves. At that distance, ultra-low altitude targets cling to the radar horizon, visible only briefly before entering their terminal phase. When the distance shrank to 25 miles, the control room in Kiev fell into a dense silence thick enough that the hum of cooling fans sounded like a countdown clock. The operator did not explain. He did not debate. He simply typed 2 words into the interface decoy maneuver. Instantly, 3 Liuti drones pulled up to 650 feet and activated their transponders. On Vasiliev's screen, 3 bright points flared against the dark sea background like candles suddenly lit in a sealed room. He sprang from his chair instinctively, hands tightening on the console as if one missed heartbeat could rip the port apart. But Vasiliev was not inexperienced. He had seen bait before. Targets flying straight, flying clean, flying too obediently. Instead of immediately spiking radar power to maximum output, he maintained moderate levels, tracking trajectories, waiting for intent to reveal itself. The 3 targets continued inbound, unwavering, almost as if declaring, "We are here to die." Their bluntness made them suspicious. But suspicion does not eliminate urgency. As distance closed, Vasiliev had to decide. Panzer Battery 1 switched to active tracking mode. Continuous high-power emission, dense scan pattern, by the book, exactly by the book, and exactly what Ukraine had anticipated for 3 hours. 2 missiles launched twin streaks, carving through the night. 2 Liuti drones detonated at roughly 590 feet altitude. On Kiev's screens, 2 bright dots vanished instantly. 20 miles behind the decoy group, a 4th Liuti advanced in absolute silence. It did not carry HMX. It carried a compact anti-radiation seeker programmed to hunt any active radar source within range. The moment Panzer went active, it did not just detect targets. It became one. When distance fell below 3 miles and approach geometry steepened, reaction time collapsed to mere seconds. No software update could patch that gap. No doctrine could outrun physics. Vasiliev sensed danger almost immediately and cut the radar. In Kiev, the screen flashed red. Lock lost. 2 seconds of emptiness. Tiny, harmless sounding, yet enough to unravel hundreds of preparation hours. Everything hovered between triumph and collapse. Then the 3rd decoy dipped lower into the blind zone. If the radar stayed dark, Panzer would be blind to an object sliding into lethal range. Vasiliev understood the cost of blindness. He hesitated for a single breath. Then he pressed the switch. Radar active. Screen flared. Somewhere beyond the darkness, something had been waiting for that exact moment. The Liuti with the seeker locked onto the emission like a predator hearing its prey's heartbeat. 11:43 p.m. Panzer Battery 1 detonated. A column of fire over 200 feet high rose from the southwest corner of the port, reflecting across the Black Bay waters. Russian radio traffic shattered into urgent fragments. Panzer 1 destroyed attack source southwest, but Russia was not paralyzed. The remaining battery maneuvered instantly, radar vehicle shifting positions reflexively. Automated dispersal protocols activated. Nearby units increased scan density. They were now looking in the correct direction, but still at the wrong target. Because while Vasiliev focused southwest, 4 Magura 5 vessels had quietly arced eastward. They did not accelerate. They emitted nothing unnecessary. They skimmed the surface like phantoms sliding beneath the horizon. Offshore, the Ka-27 continued scanning, convinced the primary threat lay where flames still burned. Yet the helicopter pilot had already heard the Panzer destruction report. He broke from standard patrol orbit, descending lower, switching to lateral sea surface sweeps. His radar detected 2 anomalous contacts nearly a minute earlier than planned, as if someone had suddenly turned on a flashlight in a dark room and every shadow had to sprint. Naval gunfire erupted offshore. Not to build a perfect wall of water, but to sever approach vectors. Shells detonated near the surface, towering plumes collapsing into metallic shrapnel sweeping across waves. The Magura vessels altered course repeatedly to evade fragmentation zones. A northeast wind of approximately 15 miles per hour and cross waves battered their hulls. One was struck by fragments and destabilized. Another veered significantly after a gust. In war, even minor deviation can fracture formation integrity. Ukraine no longer possessed complete surprise. In silent mode, the remaining two Magura closed to within 2.6 miles before the Ka-27 achieved a firm lock. The Russian pilot responded textbook perfect, turning toward the threat, increasing throttle, pitching up for altitude and engagement angle. A near flawless tactical reflex, and that perfection created opportunity. Inside each Magura, beneath harmless-looking maritime containers, sat a stabilized two-axis Igla-S man-pads launcher configured for close-range self-defense. Not an R-73, too complex for surface launch, but a compact, practical solution with lethal short-range capability. Ironically, the Igla-S was Russian-made, recovered from abandoned depots in Kherson, a war debt turned back on its maker. As the Ka-27 climbed its twin TV-3117 engines flared brightly on infrared spectrum. Horizon limitations disappeared because the target had voluntarily climbed into envelope, like someone stepping under a spotlight. Two fired. The pilot reacted almost instinctively. Warning alarm, sharp pull, countermeasure release. Flares burst behind the helicopter like artificial stars. The missile chased the hottest thermal signature, then veered away, plunging harmlessly into the sea. 3 seconds later, the Ka-27 descended again to line up machine gun fire. Magura 2 was hit and disabled, drifting like a wounded animal. The final Magura remained silent, waiting for flares to burn out, waiting for the helicopter to stabilize after evasive maneuvering, waiting for the moment when danger seemed over. 11:19:44 p.m. A second Igla-S launched. 9.2 seconds later, the Ka-27 transmitted a distress call, then silence. No rotor sound, no silhouette, only waves swallowing fragments as if the night itself erased evidence. The final Magura slid deeper into the bay, its diversion role complete. 11:25 p.m., the SSO beacon transmitted for the first time. To understand that small signal, one must rewind to 4:30 a.m. that morning. During a 7-minute shift change gap, a fishing boat anchored roughly 0.6 miles from berth 3. 3 men aboard, only one genuine fisherman. The other two were Ukrainian SSO operators carrying 2 small devices, a terminal phase beacon, and a sabotage mechanism attached to the seawater firefighting pump system, the only layer capable of suppressing a major blaze during the first critical minutes. 2 actions in darkness, 7 minutes like a single breath. By 11:25 p.m., the firefighting system had been silently disabled for nearly 19 hours. That silence unlocked everything to follow. 11:29:50 p.m. Beacon stabilized. From rocky shadows east of the harbor, an SSO soldier held a laser designator steady, a thin red filament piercing darkness locking onto the valve cluster at the heart of oil distribution. He slowed his breathing. He needed only seconds. 11:30 p.m. A Grim 2, also known as Sapsan, already airborne minutes earlier, entered terminal phase of its ballistic arc. Equipped with an approximately 1,060-pound HMX warhead traveling at Mach 5.2, roughly 4,000 miles per hour, and possessing a 190 to 310-mile range depending on configuration, it was not a cruise missile but a colossal artillery shell following gravity's curve. Warnings erupted across Novorossiysk. On the S-300V4's 9 S-36M radar, a streak appeared descending at speed that made numbers meaningless. The defense grid locked instantly. 2 9M82MV interceptors launched, accelerating toward Mach 7.5, climbing to intercept between 25 and 30 miles altitude. In Kiev, silence. Countdown 28 seconds to projected impact. If interception succeeded, 67 minutes of synchronized action, dozens of drones and SSO lives would dissolve into failure. But earlier deception had distorted rhythm. S-300V4 radar data was polluted by residual clutter from the Panzer explosion, compounded by smoke and sea reflections. Intercept calculations were based on seconds-old vectors, enough to create 1,300 to 1,600 feet of error at altitude. The interceptors passed close, but missed. Twin contrails streaked uselessly across the night. Not luck, but preparation. Liuti forced radar activation. Magura eliminated the Ka-27. SSO beacon neutralized firefighting at dawn. And now, reaction windows shrank below 10 seconds. Physics offered no mercy. Grim 2 descended descended carrying kinetic energy comparable to a fully loaded freight train traveling 125 miles per hour, slamming directly into a storage tank. 11:31:42 p.m. Impact. Light arrived before sound. A white flash ripped darkness open, followed by ground shock like an invisible hammer strike. The strategic tank was pierced by the 1,060-pound warhead. Internal pressure destabilized instantly. Seconds later, a colossal fireball swelled into the night sky, climbing nearly 590 feet, glowing red like a second sunrise over the Black Sea. Molten fragments rained outward, sweeping across the already disabled seawater pump station. The main fire suppression system remained silent. Control panels flickered and died. 11:40 p.m. Three berths ceased operations entirely. Soon after, 6 of 7 were incapacitated either from direct damage or temperatures exceeding safety thresholds. Shasharis, the export throat of Russian oil, was throttled within less than an hour. A black smoke column spread across more than 2 square miles above Novorossiysk. Satellite imagery confirmed the scale. Infrared hotspots glowed like open wounds. Numbers began appearing on financial terminals like cold verdicts. Roughly 920,000 barrels per day disrupted. Over $500 million in infrastructure losses in a single night. Approximately 2% of global supply jolted. Energy prices surged into double digits in the next trading session. Emergency meetings ran through the night in Moscow. In Tehran, supply assumptions were recalculated. Every delay now carried a cost. Smoke continued to rise over the Black Sea, dense and persistent. And while the world stared at the fireball, Kiev's strategic map had already shifted to the next coordinate. What do you think Ukraine's next target will be? An ammunition depot, an air base, or another chokehold on Russian oil? Share your thoughts below, like if you believe in the power of Ukrainian ingenuity, and spread this story forward. See you in the next battle.